Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network and welcome to Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Make sure you check them out online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. It's a really exciting week for Alabama athletics, so let's go ahead and take a look at today's headlines. And we always go through all the different headlines for today thanks to the smartboard that's been furnished to us by RJ Young, and RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. First of all, look at what's coming up on the show today. We'll first be talking some footballs. We'll be hearing from a couple of Alabama football players, Bryce Young as well as linebacker Jaylen Moody, giving their thoughts on spring practice to this point. Then we'll be talking with one of the newest members of the Alabama women's basketball team, Cobbins, who is transferring to Alabama from North Dakota State. We'll hear about her game and what she brings to the capstone. Then, speaking of some outstanding performances coming up this week for the Tide, we've seen Patrick Murphy get back-to-back series wins against Georgia and against Florida. Now the Crimson Tide back at home to welcome in Mississippi State. He'll be talking about that in Coach's Checklist. And then we'll have our Hey Coach replay, a conversation with Greg Byrne. Typically he does a monthly conversation with us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. This month's interview with Greg Byrne was on Hey Coach on Monday night. So a really good conversation with the Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne. We will next go to Alabama football, and coming up Saturday, the 2022 Golden Flake A-Day game to wrap up spring practice. Our airtime on the radio will be at 1:30 p.m. and then our kickoff will be at 2 o'clock. Don't forget, right back here on the CTSN Facebook page, you can watch the booth cam for the broadcast of the A-Day game as well. And it's going to be very special coming up. John Mitchell, Wilbur Jackson will be recognized before the game with a new plaque at Gate 1, so you certainly don't want to miss that before A-Day begins. And as I mentioned, A-Day will close out spring practice for the Crimson Tide before taking a little bit of time off before the summer workouts to get ready for the upcoming season this fall. The Alabama baseball team having a really fun time right now because the Crimson Tide last weekend did something they had not done since 1997, and that is sweep the Ole Miss Rebels in Oxford. So great victory for Alabama, the first sweep overall against Ole Miss since 2014, and with that, Garrett McMillan has been named the SEC Pitcher of the Week. He was a Friday night starter, even got in a little bit of trouble in the first inning of that start last Friday, but worked his way out of it, turned in a terrific performance to help spark Alabama to the sweep. Then on Tuesday, the Crimson Tide continued their winning ways, going with a 3-1 victory over the Belmont Bruins, and now Alabama has won 7 straight. Next opponent, the number 1 ranked Tennessee Volunteers. They had won 22 straight before they lost a midweek contest to Tennessee Tech. So it's Alabama with a 7-game winning streak taking on number 1 Tennessee, a team that is undefeated in the SEC, 12-0. The Crimson Tide right now 7-5 in a 3-way tie for second place in the SEC West. It's good to see that for the Crimson Tide baseball team. How about the softball team? This past weekend, a victory over Florida, winning the first 2 games on Saturday and Sunday before the Gators won the finale of the series on Monday night. Now this weekend, Alabama is at home against Mississippi State. Once again, 3rd week in a row, Alabama softball is playing Thursday, or it's actually this weekend. It's Thursday to Saturday. They've been kind of off that Friday to Sunday series for a little bit, but with Easter coming up on Sunday, Alabama hosting Mississippi State tonight at 5 p.m., Friday at 6 p.m., Saturday at 4 p.m., with full radio coverage available across the network. And coming up, we'll be hearing from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Patrick Murphy. Do not want to cancel just yet. We have one more headline to go through as we'll talk about Alabama first gymnastics today, competing in the semifinals of the NCAA championships, and then hopefully moving on to the NCAA championship meet coming up on Saturday in Fort Worth, Texas. So best of luck to Dana Duckworth and the Crimson Tide coming up not only today but hopefully on Saturday, trying to win another national championship here at the capstone. Women's golf team had a good finish yesterday in their first round of the SEC championships. So best of luck to Mick Potter and the women's golf team, finishing strong at the SEC championships. And then in swimming and diving, we got 2 really great honors. Morgan Scott has been named the SEC Female Swimmer of the Year, and then Muhammad Farouk had a tremendous season, only his first year in collegiate diving. He was named the SEC Male Freshman Diver of the Year, so we salute both of them on their great honors as well. Now, first of all, on this show, we want to talk some Crimson Tide football as Alabama is preparing for the Golden Flake A-Day game coming up this Saturday. So we wanted you to hear from the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, quarterback Bryce Young, as well as linebacker Jaylen Moody.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of stuff for us to clean up. We didn't have our sharpest scrimmage this past weekend, and a lot of that's because of me. And I think that spring is a time for us to kind of iron out the kinks, for us to grow and get better. And you're always going to come into obstacles. So I think we know that, but at the same time, we can't be complacent. We can't be, okay with any shortcomings that we have. I'm excited for A-Day, super excited this weekend again. Another chance to compete, a chance for the fans to come in, and whenever we get that support from the community, from the fans, it means the world to us. So, I'm super excited for this week of practice, for us to try to iron out some of the kinks and, to expand on the things we have been doing positively, and then for this weekend, A-Day, for us to try to put on display for you guys and for us to go out and compete. Yeah, J-Mill is someone who I'm obviously super close with. I'm around him as much as anyone, and to see the growth from him coming in as a young player last year, and really just trying to learn the offense and understand the reads and try to piece things together, just like I was my freshman year, and then now to taking this next leap of, you can see him be more and more comfortable. You see him make decisions in the pocket. You see him make pre-snap reads, pre-snap adjustments, post-snap reads, and it's really, you can tell he's really starting to piece things together. And also I've seen how he's matured as a leader. You come in as a freshman, it's all about figuring out yourself and getting your feet wet and figuring out what you're doing. And now he's doing that, and he has that stuff down. So now he's trying to bring others around him. And I'm super proud of his development. He's been performing really well in practice and scrimmages. So I'm super happy for him, and I know he's just going to keep working and keep getting better. Yeah, I've seen the young guys that have come in, they've all been really hungry, and I think that's something that we really appreciate here is guys that come in ready to work, wanting to take every rep, wanting to get coached, being able to receive coaching. It's a complicated offense at first when you just came from high school, and there's going to be adjustments. There's going to be guys that run the wrong route or maybe make a poor read on a route, whatever it may be. But what I love about this young group is everything they do at full speed. And when they mess up, there's no finger pointing, there's no blaming. They come back and they want to get coached. And then it's great for me and for everyone on offense to see a mistake made from a young receiver on the first, second day of practice and see it get corrected the next practice. And I think they're all trending in the right direction. They're all growing and getting better. And really, I think it's their mindset that's been pushing them. So I'm super excited for all the potential that they have.
I really just came back because, this is where I want to be at. Alabama has been a home for me for 4 years, and, going into my last year, I want to make an impact, and what better place than do that than home. I love it here, and everybody's been helping me. My teammates been positive and been giving me support, and so I'm just happy to be back and just looking forward to having a great season. Mainly, I'm just trying to come back and show a leader's mentality, really show the guys the way it's supposed to be done, lead by example, and just be that guy that, the guys can look up to and really show that I'm ready, and that it's just time, like I can be that guy and be a leader for them and, be a good role model. I think I'm a very instinctive guy. I definitely like to say that I process things very well, and I just let a lot of things come to me, I just feel like I'm a very, a very instinctive player for real. I think I can help the defense in many ways by just, doing my job, showing that I'm ready for any situation, or, just being able to play my role, and I think I communicate very well. I think I help, on the defense by being able to be vocal and put people in position, and also understanding where everybody needs to be, as a linebacker, being able to be versatile, playing Mike and Will. So.
Good to hear from Jaylen Moody as well as Bryce Young as we get ready for Saturday's Golden Flake A-Day game. Some exciting football on tap for the Crimson Tide to wrap up spring practice. Well, we're still a long way away from practice to get ready for the upcoming basketball season, but women's basketball continues to be adding in talented players from the transfer portal to this Crimson Tide roster, and one of those players is Ryan Cobbins, who's a guard/forward, comes to Alabama after she averaged 11 points per game playing for North Dakota State. And a couple weeks ago, we were able to be joined by Sarah Ashley Parker, who joined Alabama from Georgia on the same day that it was announced she was joining the Alabama roster. We also got the news that Ryan Cobbins was transferring from North Dakota State to Alabama. So it's time to get to know Ryan Cobbins, again, one of the newest members of the Alabama women's basketball team. First of all, Ryan, Roll Tide, how's everything going? Are you getting used to saying Roll Tide over and over again?
Roll Tide, yeah. I'm trying to definitely get it in my vocab, but I'm saying it randomly around the house. I'm saying it to neighbors, so I'm definitely practicing.
Well, that's good. That's how it all starts for all of us. So we're certainly glad that you've made the decision to join Alabama after you had a very good career at North Dakota State. Just what can you tell us about the process that's led you to Tuscaloosa?
Just the family atmosphere. I've really enjoyed talking to the coaching staff throughout this process, and I actually got to go watch them at the South Dakota State game, so it was exciting to see them live. But I'm obviously getting really excited to get to know the players and the coaches even more. So as that time approaches, I am really excited, and I know my family is too.
Again, a very standout career for you at North Dakota State. What are you most proud of when you look back at your time with the Bisons?
Uh, just it was a learning experience. You come in as a freshman and you have no idea what to expect. And as a junior, the game slows down and you're starting, to be more detail oriented. So the learning and the experiences that I got out of it are gonna, hopefully correlate over to this next level.
Is there a favorite game you had or a great performance that really stands out in your mind?
I always enjoy playing at the South Dakota schools because they get a really good rowdy crowd. So, I mean, probably this past season at South Dakota State, I had a really good game there, and the crowd was phenomenal. But just playing those rivalry games in the Summit League is always a really good time.
Now, of course, I'm sure you're looking forward to some rivalry matchups within the SEC. I'm sure you've heard plenty
Yes,
about Alabama versus Auburn at this point.
absolutely. Yes, I have.
Well, again, once you put your name in the transfer portal, just what were you looking for before even Alabama even entered the picture? Kind of what was on your mind about what was next for you in your basketball career?
uh, that's a really good question. But just looking for something different. Looking for kind of a culture change and a new environment, and somewhere that I could attend grad school at. And so that was one of the main things that I was looking for throughout the process. But the coaching staff and I know the players are going to make my decision that much more worth it.
What stood out to you the first time you talked to Coach Curry?
Just her kindness. You always hear people talking about, people from the South are super nice, but I got on the phone with her and she just had like a motherly vibe to her and she was warm. And I just feel like she embraced me right away. And then talking to her after the South Dakota State game, I knew that I picked the right place.
And it wasn't very long after that game that Alabama played at South Dakota State. You announced your decision to transfer to Alabama, and the same day, Sarah Ashley Barker announces her decision to come to Alabama from Georgia. Just what was like having all that attention back around this Alabama women's basketball program?
It's awesome. I think that we'll have the opportunity to do something really special this upcoming season, returning all of those players and adding new pieces. And it's always the goal to win. It's always the goal, see how far you can get, challenge yourself to new heights. And, I think the team that we're going to create and work with this summer, we are going to be able to achieve something special.
Have you been talking much with either Sarah Ashley or some of the other players that are joining the roster, or then any players that are currently on this roster that are coming back?
Not a ton, but it's just a hectic time trying to finish the school year. Finals are coming up, but I'll be down in Tuscaloosa in a couple of days, so I'll be around them, and then obviously we have the summer session, so it'll be soon.
Looking forward to having you here. For people who have not watched you play before, how would you describe your game? What can you contribute to this team?
Uh, I'm versatile. I mean, coming into the SEC obviously won't be the biggest, but just being able to play the 3-4 position, and I pride myself on being able to place me wherever you need me, and toughness, and doing the little things, rebounding, playing scrappy, and just trying to be the best defender possible. So doing the little things, seeing what the team needs, what the team's lacking for the day, and I'll try to pick up the slack.
Well, you get to come to Tuscaloosa and be part of a school that has, of course, a lot of history, a lot of tradition. Now, you mentioned you've been saying Roll Tide. A lot of you enjoyed kind of learning
Yeah.
about the rest of the University of Alabama, and especially, the football tradition, everything that's coming up. I'm sure you're excited to get to Bryant-Denny Stadium for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big football fan, but aside from that, just like you said, the culture that Alabama has to offer is something that I'm really looking forward to. And like you said, saying Roll Tide, I don't know, just that hearing that come off my tongue excites me. And just, knowing the history behind it, I've been doing my research and trying to educate myself as much as possible before being there. But I'm excited to actually get there and experience the environment.
You mentioned that graduate school was really important to you when you were thinking about the next steps for you. What was your major at North Dakota State? What are you kind of hoping to go into in graduate school?
My major at North Dakota State was university studies, but that's because, I'm going into, well, I would like to go into speech pathology, so communication disorders. So I basically created my own major to make a speech pathology major because North Dakota State didn't have it. So I was attending the university down the street. And for now, speech pathology is my minor. But when I get to Alabama, I'll be able to, take those courses and work towards the graduate program. So.
What can you tell us about some of the work that you've done away from the court? We know you're a part of the Summit League's task force on diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, I've always been a person that says, it's more important to be a good person than it is an athlete. And, obviously being an athlete is super important, but I like to get myself involved in the community and helping people out around town. And like you said, I'm in the diversity and inclusion task force for the Summit League. And I also was part of a sexual assault team on campus. And I just try to really volunteer and, get myself known in the community as more than just an athlete.
Is that going to be important to you as well when you come to Alabama?
I would say so, yes.
Well, we again look forward to having you here, part of this Crimson Tide women's basketball team. Before we let you go, is there any final message you have to the fans about what is ahead, not only for you, but also this program moving forward once the Crimson Tide return next fall?
I'm just really excited. And after posting on social media, it seems like you guys are already, welcoming me warmly. And I'm just super excited to get there. And I know my family is excited. And, we all should be excited for what's to come in the future.
Well, we look forward to it. Again, Ryan Cobbins joins Alabama from North Dakota State. We can't wait to see you in Crimson for the first time. Just safe travels as you make the transition down here to school in Tuscaloosa, and just all the best. Can't wait to watch you play. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really excited that Ryan Cobbins is now a member of the Alabama women's basketball team. Can't wait to see her, plus more Crimson Tide players coming up over the next few weeks here on Crimson Drive as we are going to get closer eventually to women's basketball season. That's way off in the distance, though, in the fall. Right now, though, it is in the middle of softball season, especially in SEC play, as Alabama is coming off back-to-back series wins against Georgia as well as Florida. So it's a good time to hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Patrick Murphy, kind of taking a little bit of a look back to the Florida series and also looking ahead to what starts tonight against Mississippi State at the Rhodes House.
I just thought it was a really good series for a bunch of people. I think we hit around 340 as a team, which is one of the best batting averages we've ever had in a series against Florida. They had a deep pitching staff. I think you got to start with Kaylee Tao, who hit like 583 on the weekend and was just really, really good the entire time. Jenna Lord was awesome, a freshman coming through in the clutch. Megan Bloodworth, Shipman was great. Ashley Prangy hit the ball really well. Bailey Dowling, 3 home runs. I was just really pleased up and down the lineup. And then obviously we got good performances from Montana and Kilfoyle in game 1 and 2 to win the first 2. And then I thought just on Monday night, we just kind of ran out of gas a little bit and ran out of outs at the end of it. Really proud of the fight that they gave us in that 7th inning. And we were one person away from having the tying run come to the plate. And that's what I ask them in any time we're behind. Get the tying run to the plate and see what happens. Just being on the road, they had great crowds down there. They had the 2nd largest crowd they've ever had on Saturday. And, our bats really did all the work that day because, we got ahead early. But just that environment, being down there, we're going to be down there again for the SEC tournament in a couple of weeks. But having that pressure is really a privilege. And then to come back this weekend to have that home crowd, we feed off their presence. So I think it's going to help us down the stretch. I think Sam's doing a great job this year. I mean, her and her coaching staff, they've already beat their number of wins in the conference, and it's only halfway through. So they're doing a hell of a good job this year. They have another deep pitching staff. And then I think really the thing that almost every single year, they have just so much power throughout their lineup. They have one of the best home run hitters in the history of college softball, their catcher. We have to keep her in the park. But it's kind of sprinkled down through their lineup now. And I think they take their cue from her. So it's going to be a tough lineup to pitch against. And then I've said this all year long, is if they change pitchers, we have to be ready for whoever they put in there. And I think on Sunday against Missouri in that finale, they used 5 pitchers. So obviously they've been doing it, but we have to be ready for it.
Won't be much longer until softball is playing at Rhodes Stadium against Mississippi State in the first of 3 games coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And don't forget tonight as well, you can watch the booth cam presented, on the Crimson Tide Sports Network Facebook page, as we will have Tom Canterbury, Gray Robertson on the call for Alabama softball against Mississippi State again, starting at 5 o'clock later this evening. And that's right back here on the CTSN Facebook page. Earlier this week on the CTN Facebook page, plus the radio network, we heard from the Director of Athletics, athletics for the University of Alabama, Greg Byrne, as he was our first guest on Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance. And typically he joins us once a month here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network to go over all the latest in Alabama athletics. And this month it happened to be as well for Hey Coach. So our radio audience got to hear this as well. But a lot of great thoughts from Greg Byrne, just kind of catching us up on the busy end of basketball season, especially for him being on the men's basketball committee this past year. Plus looking ahead for not only spring sports here at the University of Alabama, football with A-Day coming up on Saturday, but what could be happening down the road for the Crimson Tide with name, image, and likeness. That'll be one of the final parts of this conversation. I think you'll enjoy listening back to everything that Greg Byrne had to say from earlier this week on Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance.
Roll Tide, Greg.
Roll Tide, Roger. Thanks for having me on. Good to see people out here.
Yeah, we're certainly glad to be here on this Monday night, as we are really excited for what's coming up on Saturday. There's always a buzz around spring football, but especially knowing that the Golden Flake A-Day game is just around the corner.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, springtime, people say, hey, the fall must be really busy. Springtime is actually our busiest time of year, with almost every sport going in some manner, and including spring football. And so obviously this weekend we have the A-Day game. It's always a great way to end spring practice and get the guys a chance to go out and play a modified game, so to speak. And, fans get a sneak preview of what's ahead for the team for this coming year. And then obviously this weekend's a big one, because we're going to be honoring John Mitchell and Wilbur Jackson and the leadership that they showed just over 50 years ago, integrating Alabama football. And we did that right before COVID with Wendell Hudson for men's basketball, because he was the first African-American student athlete that we had on scholarship at the University of Alabama, and had a great celebration for him. We were planning on trying to do something in 2020, and obviously, COVID hit. And so this was a great opportunity, and it's John's still coaching, which I don't know if a lot of people know that he's still coaching with the Steelers, and so having it work with his schedule and Wilbur's schedule, this was something, a lot of time and energy that went into planning to make this happen. But we're really excited about getting to honor two great men this coming weekend.
What have you enjoyed about getting to know them over the past few years as this process has begun, and now we get to see it coming to fruition on Saturday?
Well, I think just the leadership and the courage that they showed at a time, there was a year I was born, right? And so it's something that unless you were there during that time, I'm not sure if any of us can really comprehend just the leadership it took. Leadership it took by the two of them, leadership it took by Coach Bryant. And everybody associated with the football program in the university to say this is important, this is a really good step for our program and our university, and to get a chance to celebrate that, and the pride that they have is something that I think, is just a great reminder for all of us, the great leaders that we've had at this university over a long period of time, including those two men.
So again, Golden Flake A-Day game coming up on Saturday. Anything else different inside Bryant-Denny Stadium that fans could expect coming up this week?
Well, I think the biggest part will be when we unveil there's going to be an unveiling of the plaque for them on the front of Bryant-Denny Stadium, right by the Walk of Champions, right where the tunnel comes through. So that'll be something we want to encourage our fans to come out there. The plaque unveiling is going to be at 12:30. The Walk of Fame ceremony down at Denny Chimes, like we normally do, is going to be right before that at 12. So once you get done with that, just walk on down the street to the Walk of Champions area, so you can be there for that. And then the team will come through at 1 o'clock after the ceremony. Then 2 o'clock we'll have the kickoff, and then at halftime we'll be doing the on-field recognition of John and Wilbur as well.
So that's really exciting. The Golden Flake A-Day game coming up this Saturday inside Bryant-Denny Stadium as we put a wrap on spring practice. And we just saw the basketball season come to a close, and another memorable season for both Alabama men's and women's basketball.
Yeah, obviously it was a bit of a roller coaster at different times. But, when you look back at it and say, this is the first time in 15 years that we've had back-to-back NCAA tournament teams. It's the first time in 30 years that we've been a number 6 seed or better in the tournament. That's outstanding work and great leadership by Nate and the guys on the team to make that a reality. And I think the bar has been raised as far as expectation, as far as what the excitement level that's there for Alabama men's basketball. And so that and doing that with playing the toughest schedule in the nation, I think a lot of people knew that I was on the men's basketball committee this year for the NCAA, which is the group that selects all the teams. And I cannot, and they're very serious about it, I cannot be in the room when Alabama gets talked about. They kick you out of the room, and they give you a quick update when you walk back in, but they're very clear about that. But I do think the fact that that we're viewed in that manner, and our schedule helped us a lot. And Nate has really believed in playing a tough schedule to prepare us for obviously a great conference in the SEC, and I think that paid off in our seeding and what took place. Then on the women's side, we won 8 of our last 11 games. We advanced to the WNIT quarterfinals. Lost to the eventual champions at South Dakota State. I heard it was cold there.
It was very cold, yeah. A very brisk wind comes whipping into you. When it's 18, it feels like 10.
My folks lived in Nebraska for 10 years, and the wind does blow in that part of the country just a little bit. And the job Brittany Davis has done, just the excitement that she's brought to the program. And then as you look to Coach Curry, she deserves a lot of credit as I think we're maneuvering the transfer portal pretty well. And I think there's a lot of excitement for what's ahead for them too. So I think what took place at the end of the year is going to lay a good foundation for what's ahead next.
You mentioned your time on the men's basketball committee and making sure that you were part of the entire process, part of the selection committee, trying to determine who's going where and all these difficult matchups. And that's something from the outside I know can be easy to criticize for a lot of fans, but what kind of respect do you have for this committee now, year in, year out, having done it this past March?
Yeah, Roger, that's a good question. I've always had a lot of respect for it because one of my mentors growing up was a guy named Tom Jernstedt, who was with the NCAA for 38 years, and really he was on the championship side, and really what the Final Four is today, Tom deserves a ton of credit for that. And so anyways, I knew a little bit about it from talking to Tom, paying attention over the years, but until you're in that room, and I mean, just the process that we all go through to try to make, and the responsibility we feel to try to select the very best teams, and knowing as soon as you kind of selecting those first 1, 2, 3 seeds, that's not real tough. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes even into that. It's when you're picking those last 3 or 4 teams that are going in the tournament, and the first 3 or 4 or 5 that are going to go out, because if you're the first team out, their entire fan base is going to say, man, they can look at one statistic and say, well, we deserve to be in because of this, and all that gets dissected at a very granular level when you're talking about all the teams. And we spent so much time on the analytics. We watch basketball. We try to understand, what teams from a talent standpoint and how they play, or that goes into the thought process. But it can be anything from Ken Palm. We look at strength of schedule. We look at non-conference strength of schedule. Alabama, we had the #1 strength of schedule. That helps. And there's a lot of discussion about making sure you're rewarding the teams who challenge themselves, especially in the non-conference season, because you can control some of that. You may play a team that you think is going to be good and they don't have a good year, they don't end up as strong. But, when there's a intent to schedule a really challenging non-conference schedule, that really helps you out too. And so I got a lot of respect for what goes into it. I think I thought I knew quite a bit going into it. I know a lot more now than I did even 3 months ago.
Are you able to serve on the committee again? Would you like to serve on the committee again?
5 years.
Okay.
My gosh, what I sign up for. But it really is. It really is. I enjoy it a lot. We've got great people in our athletic department. And with Zoom now and obviously cell phones, you can be pretty connected, every single day. So it's not like you completely disappear for the month.
And, of course, everyone saw you at the Final Four, the final handshake between Mike Krzyzewski as well as Hubert Davis at the end of the Duke, North Carolina game. You're front and center right there behind the handshake.
Yeah, I've jokingly told everybody I found a good seat on StubHub. But, no, I was sitting there. You got done watching that game. It almost felt like a heavyweight fight. I mean, It was just a back and forth. It was an incredible basketball game. And so, I realized that was the end of Coach K's career. And I wanted to just kind of soak it in. And so I just was looking up, not thinking anything about it, and watching them shake hands. And I guess I was right in the camera shot. So wasn't intentional, but it happened.
The NCAA Gymnastics Championship is coming up this week, and we hope it's a very busy week for Alabama and Fort Worth.
Yeah, the team is heading out to Fort Worth in the morning or tomorrow sometime. I'm not sure exactly what time the flight time is, but had a great score showing in Seattle. Had a 198 plus score, which was outstanding. Kids are focused. I got to go over and talk to them this afternoon. I'm going to get over there for the regionals. I guess it's not regionals, but the championship first round on Thursday, and hopefully when we advance on Saturday. But it's a great group of kids. They're working really hard. I'm just really proud of the job that Dana has done with this team and leadership from our seniors. It's a great group of kids, and it's wonderful to see the successes that they're having.
Certainly is. So we look forward to seeing gymnastics compete for NCAA championships, and kind of quickly taking a look around some Olympic sports around the University of Alabama. We've seen some great finishes for Alabama in swimming and diving, track and field as well in the indoor part of their season. Outdoors still to come. We'll be talking about that with Coach Waters in a moment, but just across the board, we're seeing some really great performances by Alabama.
Yeah, we are. We just got out the information from Learfield. We're number 12 after the winter sports in the Learfield Cup, which is the overall performance as an athletic department. Our goal as a department is to finish in the top 10. Last year we had our highest finish in our department history as number 7. And it's really a great tribute to the coaches, our student athletes, and the job that they've done to really create that culture of across-the-board success in what we do, and it's what we want to have happen. Obviously, Dan's going to be here to talk about track and field and the successes they're having. But Bobby won the national championship in the weight throw, and it, for his background, having cancer just a few short years ago, and to recover from that, become a national championship, we're certainly proud of him. And what's take place, swimming and diving, Margot Gear, our head coach, has done a wonderful job of taking over the program. Our women just finished 4th in the country, our best finish ever. The men were 14th. They're recruiting at a very high level. The golf teams are off and running. They're heading to SEC championships in the next couple weeks. Tennis, men's and women, are wrapping up for the SEC championships as well. Really pleased. I just saw we're up 2-0 in softball, so that's got a chance hopefully to get a sweep tonight.
Great.
And that was after baseball swept Ole Miss this past weekend, and Ole Miss just a couple weeks ago was number 1 in the country. So we have that happen, and then we go to Tennessee this coming weekend.
That's right.
So we'll go play the number 1 team in the country this week. But Coach Bohannon has done such a good job of slowly but surely building up the baseball program, and really happy for him and the team to have the successes that they're having as well. So busy time of year, a lot of sports going on, but we love being a part of that and getting to see that.
Well, not only are coaches, student athletes having success, but we have to give some congratulations to our senior deputy AD, the senior women's administrator, and also the chief diversity officer. Tiffany Grimes was just named earlier today the Sports Business Journal's 2022 40 Under 40 list, and now that's 2 years in a row you've had a valued member of your staff on that list.
Yeah, that in the sports industry, and this is not just college sports, this is professional sports, everything across the board. And Jay Batt last year won it, who's on our staff, and then Tiffany this year. They both won it when they were 39, and 2 extremely well-deserving candidates that work tirelessly for the University of Alabama, our student athletes, for our university, our coaches, and our fans. And just thrilled when Tiffany got that recognition. And actually, there have not been many people in college sports that have ever gotten it. Jay got it. Tiffany, there's been a few athletic directors. Hard to believe I was that age at one point, and for some reason they lowered the bar and gave it to me. So we have 3 people in our department that have received that award, and most have never had one. So it's really a great tribute to the 2 of them to get that type of recognition, and it shows you the stage that you have at the University of Alabama. You get noticed on the national level, and we're all very fortunate to be part of that.
And I'm sure it speaks to as well the culture you try to have in this department, because we hear about that with the different sports and the message that coaches give student athletes. But I know that spirit of really doing well at a high level that goes throughout the entire department, and you love seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Success is contagious, right? Positive attitude, energy, enthusiasm, it's contagious, just like a negative attitude is contagious. And so I really do believe, one of the things we do when we have our coaches call is we go through each and every team during their season, what they're doing, even in the off season, and what's taking place. We want them to hear about each other's successes. And, quite frankly, we also want to hear at times if you're not hearing as much about a team. It's like, okay, let's try to raise the bar and the expectation level, because sometimes you see this feeling in sports is like everybody gets a medal. This is big time college sports, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's a great enterprise. And to say we want to be competitive, we want to be great in what we do, that's good. And we want to try to preach that every single day. Now, doing it with class and dignity and following the rules and all of those things are really important, graduating your kids. But we also want to have success on the fields and courts and pools and everything else.
And Alabama's had a lot of that. So you and I have a lot of these Facebook Live chats that we do once a month, and this is the one we're having for April here tonight at Hey Coach. And one of the things we've talked about really from the beginning stages to where it was implemented to where we are now has been NIL, name, image, and likeness. Just what's the latest? Where does Alabama stand right now?
Well, we just announced, I guess there's been a public announcement about High Tide Traditions, which is a collective that has been started by a gentleman named Larry Morris, who's a longtime supporter of the program and been a successful attorney. He understands in this world that we're in today that we need to make sure we're staying competitive. And so he started High Tide Traditions, which is an opportunity to create name, image, and likeness opportunities for our student athletes that we can, in a very positive way, use the stage that we have at the University of Alabama to connect people and businesses and individuals with opportunities to maximize name, image, and likeness opportunities for our student athletes. Just like anything else, we live in a very competitive world. And, as soon as we knew that name, image, and likeness was going to be part of college athletics, it was going to be part of recruiting. And obviously young men and young women are going to be paying attention to where they think the best place for them is to go to school academically, competitively, from a coaching standpoint. And name, image, and likeness is going to be a part of that. And so we have an opportunity to have people go get involved with High Tide Traditions. They have a website set up that people can get connected and see what the different opportunities are. And I just want to encourage people to go to highttidetraditions.com, take a look at that, and see what opportunities to say, hey, I think that's something I'd like to be involved with, and make sure our student athletes are having the best experience they can have possibly. That allows us to have them have a great experience, and then us have the best opportunity to have success academically, athletically, and socially across the board. And so that's a new reality in our industry. There can be people that don't like it, but it is a reality, and we have to deal in realities, and that's important with what we're doing, and that's what we're trying to do.
How much has feedback from the student athletes about their experiences helped shape what you want to do moving forward?
Oh, it does tremendously. I think it's always very important to listen to the student athletes, hear what they have to say. At the same time, too, I know when I was 18 to 22 years old, there as much as I thought I had it figured out at all times, there were a lot of things I didn't have figured out. And so that you do have a responsibility to listen to them, to get feedback, to help you with guidance. And at the same time, too, there is something to be said the more gray hair you get, right, Tom? You and I've got that. And it comes with that gray hair comes some wisdom, some experience that's really good that you want to help in your decision making and what takes place. And so we do that. So we listen, but at the same time too, there's a reason why we hire coaches and we hire administrators to be adults in the room and help guide our student athletes. And you're going to hear about the controversial things, right? You're going to hear about when there's challenge and strife, and there always will be because you have people involved. But I tell you, as a person that's been around this my entire life, there's so much good that happens within the walls of a college athletic department, especially at the University of Alabama. And as we navigate these waters of name, image, and likeness and what this looks like in the transfer portal and all the new things that are on the radar screen for us, I do believe that the good of college athletics and what takes place, let's not lose that in the process. I think that's very important to always keep that in mind, that we've done a lot of great things for our student athletes, for our coaches, our staff, our families, our fans, and we don't want to lose the ability to have all those people involved in time too.
And you mentioned all the time you've been in collegiate athletics, you've been around this your entire life. Has the last 2 or 3 years been about the most transformative you've seen from any of the different periods? I mean, looking at when you first came to Alabama back in 2017 to where we are now, we're talking about a lot of different things.
Yeah, we are. For name, image, and likeness, I knew that it started getting talked about a little more frequently about 10 years ago. And as soon as it started gaining some traction, I'm thinking, man, it'll be different, because people would talk about, well, they do it in the Olympics. You don't really get recruited in the Olympics. You're USA Olympian, you're Canadian Olympian, whatever country you're from or have some type of family connection to. In college sports, it's recruiting, and that's the lifeblood of programs. And so we knew that was going to be part of it. And the reality, I was talking to a friend of mine who works in the NFL, and I was asking him about, I said, when it comes to your offensive linemen in the NFL, do many of your offensive linemen get name, image, and likeness deals? And he said, no, maybe a left tackle here and there may get somebody, or something back in their hometown may get a little something. Normally it's a high-profile offensive or defensive player that gets, the lion's share of those dollars. And, in recruiting in college, you've already seen schools say, well, we're going to do something for the entire offensive line, or we're going to do something for the secondary, or whatever it may be, or a position group in basketball, and I'm not sure if that was the intent of it. At the same time, too, there have been a lot of good opportunities that are very legitimate opportunities for young men and young women in our program and others. I think that's great. And if we could somehow get that regulated, but we are going to need some federal guidance at some point to create a model that is sustainable for the long haul in what we do.
Well, we'll certainly be keeping an eye out on that. And for you, as we start to finish up this spring semester, get ready for the summer and prepare for the fall, just what's on your plate right now? What are the biggest items on your agenda?
Well, what we just talked about is one of them, name, image, and likeness. Obviously, we've announced our goal to build a new competition arena for men's and women's basketball and gymnastics. Those fundraising discussions are ongoing. We're working a lot with the numbers right now. As you can imagine, the construction market with the inflation and everything, we're trying to make sure we're being fiscally responsible as we move those things forward. Our men's and women's golf program, we've got a facility on the docket for that, which we're really excited about. And then just every day, the evolving world of college athletics, and making sure that we're making good, solid decisions for the University of Alabama and our student athletes, and making sure we put a road ahead that's very strong for many, many years and generations to come.
We look forward to it. Greg, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate everything you're doing for
Thanks,
Alabama.
Roger. Roll Tide, everybody.
Big thank you to Alabama Director of Athletics Greg Byrne for joining us on Monday night's edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance. And make sure you come back and watch Greg in May. We'll be joined once again by him coming up in mid-May to kind of wrap up what we're seeing throughout the spring sports calendar, and looking ahead to the summer, and also looking ahead to the fall. As you can tell, he's going to be very busy with everything that is going on with Alabama athletics. And speaking of busy, we're going to be very busy right here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network as we take a look at our weekend schedule. And it all begins just later tonight. Just in a few hours, we'll be firing up the booth cam for Alabama softball against Mississippi State in the first of a 3-game series. Again, 5 o'clock again, we'll have the booth cam with Tom and Gray coming up right back here on the network. Then on Friday, the baseball team will get things going against number 1 Tennessee, 5:30 Central start for game 1 of the series. The softball team's playing as well at 6 p.m. against Mississippi State. And then on Saturday, very, very busy with 3 different sports. We'll have the Golden Flake A-Day game at 2 p.m. inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, and our coverage will begin at 1:30. And don't forget, we will have a booth cam coming up for Saturday's the booth cam for Alabama against, well, it's A-Day, so it's the Crimson against the White, but we'll have that coming up there. Softball team will be taking on Mississippi State at 2 o'clock coming up on Saturday, and then the baseball team against Tennessee both on Saturday and Sunday, kind of a night game on Saturday at 5 p.m. Then Easter Sunday, Alabama baseball will be the only game going at noon Central, and then the next week will begin coming up on Monday night with Hey Coach, 6 p.m., our next to last Hey Coach of the season for this school year. That's going to wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Certainly want to say a big thank you to Ryan Cobbins of the Alabama women's basketball team for joining us. Thanks as well to football players Bryce Young and Jaylen Moody for their comments, as well as Patrick Murphy with our different checklists that we had, as well as the Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne, for joining us on Monday night's edition of Hey Coach. Thanks as well to producer Ethan Carabin for putting all of this together, as we have really enjoyed this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Make sure you check them out online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. For everybody with Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Roll Tide, everyone.